for the past couple of years. The growing number of homeless who have moved in and out of the area, the restroom east wall and the softball field dugout have created a different park environment. That environment is so different from just a year ago, when it has created an atmosphere that makes my wife unwilling to walk or fight in the park alone. These problems are not always apparent to the occasional visitor, but they are there and they are growing daily. I really question whether this is the place for either a monument or monument visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker with their hand raised is Amy Walsh. You may begin speaking.
Hi, I know I've said this in the past, but I really like for the public not to be interrupted when they're speaking. It's just disrespect, just plain disrespect. And I'd also like to talk about the fact that I'm not sure who puts on the not the production, but I guess at this point it is the production. When people are speaking, people are getting muted. It's cutting people off. When everybody that was there was clapping for the gentleman that was retiring earlier, the clapping was cut off. I mean, this happens constantly. And I mean, it would have been nice to hear, the audience and whoever else clapping for the gentleman that was retiring. This really needs to stop. Whoever is doing this, the channel that does this, our local cable, whatever, they really need to take a little bit more care in it. And one last thing that I wanted to speak on, people have already talked tonight about the fact that the council has, been a little rude to our different speakers, to people in the audience and that kind of thing. And I think people need to remember, as people, I mean council members, need to remember that we, the public, have dealt with so much in regards to you being on the council. And the disrespect that you guys clearly give. There are a few more than others, but I'm not going to point anyone out because I really want to. Like Terry had said earlier with the bathroom breaks and the this and that, not, paying attention to people's phones, paying attention to talking to the person next to you. It's just, I felt like I'm in a high school classroom. I really feel like when people are talking up here, you need to be paying attention. And I'm pretty sure that at least 2 or 3 of you guys aren't right now. And I don't even see you. So there's that. People keep saying, do better, just do better. That's all anyone's asking for. And it's not even a lot, considering that you guys are council members of a city. It's not a lot to ask. This is like, what, twice a month? You're doing this twice a month, you're getting paid for it. You're getting dinner probably at these meetings, because I know we did on the school board. I mean, suck it up while you're there, city chiefs. Pay attention. Do your job. Read the documents that are given to you. Go over the council agenda. I know it's crazy, I know. But I know that you can do it. You're all qualified adults. And the one thing that I really want to go home to people is the fact that we see your faces. And the rolling of the eyes, the mumbling under, like, just know that you might think your mic isn't hot, but you can hear the little comments. That's all I have to say.
The next speaker is Camila Overbeek. You may begin.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Camilla Overbeek, resident of Westminster. I'd just like to address item 5.3. I hope that we can put this rebate program on the back burner. It's unfair to continue such a program when residents are even sure our city will avoid bankruptcy. I think we have far bigger pressing issues. And quite frankly, I don't give a damn that we didn't meet the $3 million cap. Taxpayers are not responsible for ensuring that dealerships keep their sales up. If the program works so well, let the dealerships work together to provide buyer incentives. But don't you dare ask taxpayers to do it. I sincerely hope that this council will do the right thing, put the program on the back burner until this financial health of this city is secure. We don't have the funds for this, and this is a program that is cutting the fat from a budget because we don't have the money. Stop allowing for them to bully you, or stop returning the favors. Residents don't owe you shit. Do better for us.
Mayor, that concludes, any speakers with their hands up on Zoom at this time.
All right, so I'd like to close order communication. Next, we have consent calendar. All matters under the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by a single motion, followed by roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of this item unless members of the council or staff request. A specific item will be moved to the consent calendar for separate action of this discussion. Second. So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you, Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Hall. Yes. Councilmember Noel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo.
Yes.
Mayor Top.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
All right. Next, item 5.1, Central Cities Navigation Center and preliminary funding request, budget and initial startup cost. Starting cost.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the community. I'm excited to bring this item back tonight. So, as I mentioned, a couple of months ago, the city entered into a preliminary memorandum of understanding with the cities of Garden Grove and Fountain Valley to develop a navigation center. So, at this juncture, a location has been selected, and the city of Garden Grove, on a unanimous 7-0 vote, excuse me, I'm a little excited about this, but they've actually moved forward with a purchase and sales agreement, which now puts this property into escrow. And so if my assistant manager also can bring up what this property looks like. So this is not it. So as this council has, in the last year and beyond that, this council has made, trying to deal with our homelessness situation, and put it as a priority over time.
City manager, can't see it.
Oh, so homelessness is one of those issues that that has developed, at the local level, in which, at the local level, we are limited in our resources when it comes to staffing and, of course, services that we can provide. that much is, that much is very clear. And one of the things that this council has discussed over time is the consideration of a partnership. This was brought up last year and prior to that as well, in terms of, going into a partnership with some of our neighboring cities. And so this location is actually in Garden Grove. It's at 13871 West Street. And so your major cross streets are Westminster and New Hope. So that's between Euclid and Harbor. It is in an industrial area that's considered within their overlay zone for a shelter. And so it's currently an escrow at a purchase price of $5.6 million. The square footage of the site is 18,166 square feet, with the actual structure measuring 11,363 square feet. The building was constructed in 1964. It is an industrial warehouse, and it's also, and you can't tell from the photos, but inside the photo, a lot of renovations have already been done. So it is very much, new structure on the inside. So the Navigation Center would have 85 beds and would provide support services and amenities. This is the draft schematic of what this shelter would look like. So as you drive up into the entryway, so you see down below is parking. And then the entrance, you can tell that, so there's where the main gate is, and there's an entry point where there's check-in, a metal detector, rooms for client services. And so the intent is that at some point we'll have an RFP put out for a provider to provide services. Those services would include like one-on-one case management, mental health stabilization services and resources, outpatient health services, employment assistance and job training, life skills, transportation, etc. As far as the living quarters, we would have men's, women's, and couples dorms and restrooms. You have a warming kitchen, a laundry room, dining and outdoor lounge areas. There is a dog walk area as well. That's toward the bottom of this. But right now you can see there's that dog run. There's that dog run, that corner, outdoor lounge. Outdoor lounge, client area. This is a general idea of what this would look like. And so Westminster would be anticipated to have 22 beds out of the 85. And then Fountain Valley would have, I believe it's 13. Garden Grove is 50. And that's just based on some of the metrics. They're based on the number of homeless from the point in time count, but also based on population. Both percentages came out to pretty much numbers in those ranges. So at this time, in terms of our share, we have preliminary estimates of what the cost would be for startup, which includes tenant improvements and then of course furniture. So the costs are, so we're asking for a $4 million allocation that would come from the general fund and then be reimbursed through ARPA funds. The County of Orange has also provided a letter that they will commit $11.3 million toward the project, but that would include $5.3 million toward tenant improvements, and then $625,000 annually toward ongoing operations and maintenance. So with county support, Westminster's total share of cost is approximately $7.1 million. That does include the city's portion of the purchase price, the startup costs, tenant improvements, and together with the anticipated operations and maintenance costs over a 10-year period. And that is a $495,000 estimate for annual operation costs. So again, staff's requesting City Council authorize the allocation of $4 million from general fund reserves to a newly created account for the Navigation Center. And this amount would again be reimbursed through the American Rescue Plan Act or ARPA. Any amount that would be left over would help cover any anticipated expenses or operations and maintenance. And then of course, as part of outreach efforts on our part, as a city, We'll be having a workshop for the public, a community meeting on, again, Monday, October 10th at 6 p.m. in the East West Room to just provide an overview of what a navigation center is from true experts that are in that field. We'll also have our PD staff and who will be out there as well to answer questions and provide the public with some information as to what services they're providing and what they're doing now, to help with the homelessness efforts that we have right now. And so a more extensive memorandum of understanding among the three cities is currently being drafted. And that will essentially, put in legal parameters and discuss things about ownership, operation, access, funding, just a little bit more detailed as opposed to what we previously had. Because of course that is a question as to, what some of our rights would be, considering this property is in Garden Grove, but we're providing, funding for it as well. So those will be spelled out in the MOU and then of course presented to this council at a later date. With that, I'm available for any questions.
Yeah, but really want to thank City Manager for your presentation that I have impressed. This is amazing. This is an excellent item. I think that's a really good project, and this is a great opportunity. This is a good partnership between three cities on the issue of homelessness. So this is a really good project. I 100% support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Question, so thank you for that detailed presentation and all the hard work that you've been putting in it yourself and your team of Dolphin as well. So this is, you heard what the community has been wanting, you heard the council, what the council's been wanting, so thank you guys for, taking that leadership and really driving this forward. And I know we had some other things fall through and you just kept going and kept persevering and moving forward, so thank you for that. And then you're gonna bring back also an MOU, equity, what that is and how that's gonna work out. And then also at a later time, you would be looking at a service provider that will come back to us.
So there would be an RFP that would be put out for a service provider, and that would, that would go through the same process of council approval, et cetera, among the three cities. As far as the MOU goes, same thing. I will say, Russ Hildebrand, who is with Jones and Mayor, he's the lead on the draft MOU, and he worked on the MOU for the Placentia shelter. So he does have considerable experience with a navigation center.
Well, thank you. I'm excited about this project. Like the mayor said, this is something that we've all wanted, and give our police department the tools that they need to really help the homeless community. For all these years, our HLOs and when back when we had sitting, they're fighting every day for a bed if an individual asks for it. And sometimes that bed wasn't there. That could have been the day, the night that person wanted to turn their life around and create this harmony if there wasn't available. So this is something that we've needed for a long time, and thank you for that. And with that, I want to make a motion to approve as recommended.
Second.
I'd like to make,
And I do have a question for you.
I do too.
There's no doubt that this is a great achievement from staff getting the navigation center moving forward. But I do have one question for either staff or for the PD. Our purpose is to bring the homelessness to the navigation center and help them to get their feedback. And of course, we have to feed them a meal, have a daily meal for them. And I understand there are programs to get them back on, on their feet. But then, for those who are going in there or refuse going in there, or going in there and then they decide not to stay and come out again. I know that the law or the court will not allow them to do, allow us to do anything to work with the homelessness, unless we have the navigation center. And now the navigation center is in place. What are we going to deal with those people if they kept going in and coming out, kept going in and coming out, or refusing to go?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. To answer that question, if we have an available bed for a homeless individual and they are sleeping, just for example, in a public park, and it's after hours, maybe there's a sport event with children. Right now, we can't cite or arrest that person for camping or sleeping in the park. If we offer that person another place to sleep, as in the shelter option, and the person says, no, I don't want to, I want to sleep right in the middle of this soccer field. Now we actually do have the authority to cite or arrest that individual. And that's case law that we have to offer a viable option for the person to be able to sleep in, which would be a shelter, another bed. Them that call home that evening or longer, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers part of the question. You know, let's say that they said, oh, okay, I agree to go there. But then the next day they didn't come out, and, you know, now again, they do things that we don't want them to do, then what? Will put them again, back again, or, by the way, you know, when you said you have the right to arrest them, then where are we going to put them? Where are we going to house them? Are we going to bring it to the navigation center, or we are going to put it in temporary?
So the navigation center would not be used to incarcerate anyone. If the person refuses to move, then we can cite them, and if they still go, oh, thanks for the citation, I'm not going anywhere, I'm gonna lay back down on the 50-yard line here, then we can actually physically arrest them and bring them to our jail.
Thank you very much.
And the navigation center is not meant to be, it's not meant to be long-term housing, so there are limitations to how long they can stay there anyway, which I believe is 60 days off the top of my head. But, there are services that are there are strict rules that are there. And so, again, this is meant for people who want to come in and get services so that they can transition.
Can you mention a few of the services?
Yeah, no, so some of the services that, so some of the services that are listed, so outpatient health services, transportation, case management, an area for them to store their personal belongings, so lockers outdoors, again, mental health and stabilization services and resources, substance abuse counseling, life skills development, job training. And so again, a provider that's coming in there will be there, they'll be staffed there 24 hours a day. And they'll provide these services, for those that are staying there. And the expectation is that they use these services. That's the point of coming to this type of a center. It's to help them transition into something else. But it's not meant for them to be there long term.
Thank you.
If I may clarify too, just the reasoning behind this is that there was a court decision, and the court decision essentially holds that cities can't criminalize people just because they're homeless. The status of being without a home. So really what it puts on the city and all the cities in Orange County, LA, we have this obligation to have that opportunity for them to get off the street. And that's what we're trying to do with this navigation center, is provide them, this is not in any way an incarceration type of thing. This is more an opportunity for them to get off the street. They have to willingly go there. And once they get there, we partner with the county to offer them all the services that hopefully they agree to, and there are many good success stories. If the person refuses, at that point now we've offered them a bed and they're in violation of our anti-camping ordinance, and we can then criminally enforce if they continue to refuse. That's essentially the reasoning behind it. We have to do our part, and then the burden is on them.
Okay.
Richard? You know, I just find that the numbers don't add up. And, I think this is like awfully expensive. So I'm just asking. So first of all, okay, so tell me if I'm correct. So I have 11.3 million dedicated, by the County of Orange, right, towards this project. And then you've got, 4 million, I assume that would be like for each city times 3, Valley, Garden Grove, and, us.
No, so it's the share of cost is actually, I'll see if I can pull it up, and it's actually in draft format, which is why it's not,
Okay, just a this.
yeah, it's not fully disclosable, because it is a working draft right now, which Delphine might actually be able to pull it up faster.
If you're asking for 4 million, so what's that?
So 4 million for us is the purchase, it's part of the purchase price, it's the estimate, it's a little bit, I will say it's a little bit higher than what it actually is, but again, that's because we don't have exact costs until things start getting built. But that's
So
part of, so that's,
they're asking 4 million from each city, so
no,
that's.
no. So we are asking for the allocation of 4 million to cover our portion of the purchase price, tenant improvements, and then the, furniture and equipment that will get purchased, or that, will be purchased.
So what are the other two?
So the other two are,
More or less?
So
it's my share.
It's by proportion, so like Garden Grove is
Yeah, it would be more.
close to 5. Fountain Valley is 1.2.
1.2?
This is for the purchase.
1.2?
And then we set aside, we're asking for the 4 million, the current draft number is 2.1. That's the way the totals are rolling right now. But they're in draft form, we're still working through them.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, okay, so my estimate would be, okay, 20 million. So we have the county putting in 11.3. You've got the 3 cities putting in, well, whether it be for renovations or for furniture, equipment or whatever, then I'm gonna estimate it to be about 20 million. So if you divide that into, is there any other startup,
So, yeah, so, let's see if I can,
any other startup costs?
no, so as far as the total program costs, and this is if the county, like, again, with the county, right? So you have due diligence, administration, acquisition, tenant improvement, and then of course, furniture and equipment. So our share ends up being, technically, based on the estimate right now, it's only about 2.2 billion. We're asking for 4 in the allocation number 1, part of the ARPA funding, it's a one-time deal. We do have monies in our federal funds for annual ongoing costs, but we're asking for the 4 just as a cushion.
I understand.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna add 2.2. So that's like, you mentioned 5 for Garden Grove, 1.2 Fountain Valley, 4 for, 2.2 for us, right?
So
So I'm not gonna do 4, I'm gonna use 2.2, so that's 8.4.
So it's an estimate of about 4.9 for Garden Grove, 1.3 for Fountain Valley. So based on the number of beds, we're a little less than half of Garden Grove, and then Fountain Valley is about half of ours, and that's just proportion based on the number of beds.
Okay, so we add 11.3, let's just put all of our money in a pot, 11.3 plus 8.4, 8.5, whatever. So it comes to about 19.7, so that's 20 million. So then you take 20 million, you divide that into 85 beds. Okay, I'm doing this estimate and it's like $235,000 per bed. And we are taking 20 beds. Okay, so it's just not adding up in my mind is our share is, 20 beds out of the 85. And we have 160 homeless. We have 20 beds. Okay, you explain to me your strategy. So and then each one will stay for 60 days, correct? This is short-term stay, not long-term stay. That's a short-term solution. So isn't this quite a lot? It's like 200 okay, then you've got on top of that, $625,000 of operations and management costs per year, which I think is okay, Well, I thought if the county gives us 11.3 million, that should even pay for the building.
So, I mean, we're not owning the building, we don't own the building, but a group owns the building.
Rồi, coi như là sắp sửa Khải xin chấm dứt chương trình nơi đây và xin hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong những chương trình tới nha.
Okay, that's really good, that's what I want to fight for.